Welcome to the November the 16th, 1987 taping of It Happened in Grand Prairie, as we bring you the history of Grand Prairie of the past and bring you up to date with some of the wonderful people that have made contributions to the history of our great city. We are delighted today to have history tape number 55. And for our guest today, we have Mr. and Mrs. Lee McGregor, and we're so glad to welcome both of you all with us today, McGregors. Wonderful. And to begin our show today, let's start out with Merle McGregor, Merle Caskey McGregor, who has been a long-time resident of Grand Prairie. But before we get into your activities in Grand Prairie, Merle, would you please look into your camera and tell everyone on this history record about your family, about your parents, including your mother's maiden name. Give us all of that good genealogy, and go back as far as you would like to that you have knowledge of for our record. Would you do that?
Well, my mother's name was Eleanor McCaskill, Eleanor Adeline McCaskill, and my father's name was Robert Shelby Caskey. And I grew up in Florence, Texas, where my mother and father were both born and lived there all their lives. And I moved only once during my lifetime until I came to Grand Prairie. And I had 5 brothers and 3 sisters.
Would you like to name your brothers and sisters into the record?
My older brother was Malcolm. Then I had twin brothers who were Luther and Lathel. Then the next one was Clytus, and the next one Foy, and then my sister Mary, and my sister Zuella, and myself.
All right, that sounds like a wonderful family. Will you continue on, please?
And 2 of them were twins. Luther and Lathel were twins, and 2 of them are deceased now. And about 2 weeks ago, we all got together, and all those who were living, and we had a wonderful time.
Where did you hold this family reunion?
In Florence, Texas, at my sister's home.
All right, now you've mentioned Florence, Texas, and for those in video land, I know that we do not know where Florence is located. Would you tell us the county and the approximate area?
It's in Williamson County, and it's south of Killeen and north of Georgetown.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And it's a wonderful little city, but it's grown quite a bit since I grew up there. But lots of things have happened there.
All right,
and
did you get to go to school there at Florence,
I
Texas?
graduated from Florence High School and in 1933, and I was a Depression kid. And we still have our high school reunions. Of course, a lot of them are deceased now, but we still enjoy our get-togethers for our high school reunion. And when we were there, I was talking to one of the teenagers there, and we were discussing about the buffaloes, which we were when I was there, and their colors are still purple and white. And we were talking about the cheerleaders and how much it's changed. Their rhythm has changed since I was there, and the dress has changed. Of course, we wore black bloomers with the blouse is what we wore there for our costumes for cheerleading, and I played basketball, and I loved it. I wish I could play again.
Oh, that is wonderful. Would you like to go on and tell us about the one time that you moved, other than moving to Grand Prairie?
We lived out on a farm about 4 miles northeast of Florence, and we walked to school. We didn't have a way like we do now because it was the Depression time, and we couldn't afford a lot of things that they have today. And my mother was a very energetic person, and she had lots of talents, and some of those I'd like to mention.
All right.
She wore an apron with a pocket in it, and in this pocket she had a pencil and a paper, and as thoughts came to her, she was a poet. And as these thoughts came to her, she would jot them down, and then she'd write a poem. And so she has published several books. One of them is entitled Mama Caskey's Crazy Collections. She was very humorous, but yet she was a serious person also. And another book that she published was Smiles and Tears. And another one is Pastime Poems. And at 86, she wrote a history of Florence, 100 years in Florence, from 1851 to 1951. And I have a copy of those. And she also received the Citizen of the Year award. And we appreciated that. And at 80, when she was 86, she bought her a typewriter and a sewing machine, but yet she still used the same old washing machine that she used when we were growing up.
Oh, that's very exciting.
And when we lived on the farm, well, we had an old gray mule. She was a part of the family, and she did much work, but all the kids came to ride this old gray mule, and we had so much fun, and there'd be at least 5 or 6 girls or boys riding her. When she got ready to unload us, you know how she did it? She raked us off under a limb.
Oh.
And we were really unloaded then.
That was very unique. And you have with us today a piece of memorabilia. It looks like an old sad iron.
That's what it is, and I used that when I was a teenager or even younger, because I started sewing when I was 9 years old. I was a 4-H club girl, and I learned to sew and I learned to cook, and I'm still at it.
You're still at it. Merle,
Right.
we're going to let you rest for a minute, and then we're going to come back to you about some more notes about your move and about maybe Grand Prairie, Texas. But let's get to Lee McGregor. Lee, would you look out and tell us about the real Lee McGregor, about your parents, your grandparents? If they migrated from another state, we'd like to know that. Your brothers and sisters. Give us the history of Lee McGregor.
Okay. I can't go too far back to my grandparents on my father's side, but I can more so on my mother's side.
All right.
But on my father's side, they came from Tennessee, and there wasn't too much connection between them because there weren't many of the McGregors. But on my mother's side, she was a Bigham, Florence Evelyn Bigham.
All right.
And she was an artist. She painted both China and pictures, and she did a lot of things like that, hobbies around home. However, it was more than a hobby with her because she sold them. She had quite a
wonderful
deal selling.
All right, you didn't give us your dad's full name. We need to have that for the record.
It's Bartlett Clinton McGregor.
All right.
And he had a half-brother. Well, he had 2 half-brothers, and one of them lived in Beaumont, and one of them was deceased when I was real small. I never did see him.
And
But
where did you live growing up, Lee?
I lived out from Killeen. Most of the time lived surrounding Killeen. We were on a farm. I lived there a while, and then later, when my dad sold out the farm, well, moved to town, and he went to work in town, and I was small then. And we lived in town at that time. One thing that was really happened, funny, we moved to Belton. We went to work down there for Ray and Elliott Shoe Company down there. And when we moved down there, of course, my mother got her painting out and everything, her easels and everything, all those things. And she had a colored washwoman come up there and to do the washing. And at Killeen, you didn't have any colored people there. I mean, you couldn't, they didn't stay there. Anyway, she went over to Mrs. James E. Ferguson, who was a brother of Jim Ferguson at the time, or had been. He wasn't serving at the time that I was there, but he was a brother. He didn't have any color skin tone, on a colored person. And so she got her, Mrs. Ferguson's washwoman to come down there and wanted to show her pictures, and she did. And after she left, showed them all the pictures, and she mixed up the paint to paint the colored person. And that picture, I don't know where that picture got off to. It was lost somewhere in the shuffle. but she was invalid a lot of the time, and she passed away when I was 9 years old.
Well, do you have any brothers and sisters?
No, I have a half sister and a half brother rather, and a stepsister.
And a stepsister.
That's right.
All right, and where did you go to school? You lived around the Killeen area.
I went to Killeen Public Schools there in Killeen. It's a new building at the time. And I spent most of my time around Killeen until I came up here.
What did you do for a living after you got out of school?
Well, after I got out of school, I got out in 1932 in the Depression. And of course,
right.
there wasn't any work much going on that time. So I went to work at a filling station, and I worked there a little while, and a fellow said, would you like to buy this? And I said, I don't have any money to buy this. He said, well, that's no problem. He's a member of the church. And he said, that's no problem. He said, I feel like that you'd take care of my business at the front, just buy out the filling station front, you know. And so I said, that'll be fine. And I said, I don't have any money, but I said, I'll sure take care of it for you. So I stayed there, and I worked with that for a couple of years, something like that. And then by that time, the radios came in, and where they use wind chargers, you know, the battery sets.
All right.
One battery, and the wind chargers to keep the batteries up. So I got selling those, and I doing right well on that back in those days, because it didn't take much to live, you know. Anyway, I did that, and then after, a little later, I went to work picture show, projectionist, the picture show there. And following that, the Texas Power and Light there needed a man to work there, so I went down and made an application, and they put me to work.
For Texas Electric?
Texas Electric.
How wonderful.
So I did that for till I moved to Grand Prairie.
And what did you do at Texas Electric?
Well, I installed meters, disconnects. Of course, I answered all emergency fire alarms and everything. And I had lots of experiences in that, finding different things there. People maybe cheat a meter.
Jump the meters,
Right,
didn't they?
that's right.
Yeah.
Things like that.
That sounds very exciting.
But the thing that I really liked or thought about after living in Killeen for a while, well, we moved after my mother passed away. Well, we moved out to Miles, Texas.
And where is Miles,
Miles
Texas?
is between Ballinger and San Angelo.
And in what county do you know?
It's in Runnels, I believe.
It's in Runnels County, okay.
I believe. I may be mistaken on that because I was small then. I was 9, but my geography wasn't very good then.
All right.
Anyway, it was rather odd. We had a church there, and the church is everybody just about moved away and quit coming and no interest and all. So my dad and another fellow and a few others and myself went over there, and we cut the weeds, and we trimmed everything up, painted things up, cleaned them up and everything, and got the church back in operation. And when we left there, well, it was going real good. In the meantime, while I was living there, I had attacked appendicitis. And so my dad put me on a train. We went to Temple. And when I got down Temple, well, it had a lady down the room, had a man down the room from me, and his daughter came up to see me one day because they knew I was from Killeen and had been there. There's this girl.
And it was that good-looking girl sitting by your right-hand side today. She came to visit you in the hospital at Temple, Texas.
Right.
And
She's
that's
daughter.
how you met Merle?
That's how I met Merle, first time I met her.
That's very exciting.
Yeah. But it was just like it's supposed to happen.
Yes, all right. We're going to let you rest just a
Okay.
minute, and then I'm going to get to Merle about this. Merle, tell us a little bit about being at Temple, Texas, going to the hospital and meeting Lee, and how it developed into a wonderful, lifelong, lasting relationship.
Well, we went to visit him and went to visit my father, who was there in the hospital.
I see.
And so we heard about Lee, and so we went down to see him. I felt sorry for him because he was a little boy, and his mother had passed away. So we took him candy. and chewing gum and all these things that little boys like. And so there's where we met. But he had met my father in Miles. My father sang in a gospel meeting there, led the song service, and that's where he met my father. And then after that, well, we both went back home, and in later years, well, we met again.
And where did you meet the second time?
Well, we met in Killeen.
In
I
Killeen.
went to work in Killeen for my brother-in-law in the grocery store.
All right.
And so there's where we met. And he had a radio shop just down the street from me. And of course, I like to go to the post office real often.
Yes.
Going by the radio shop. But anyway, after that, well, he was called to come to Chance Vault to work. And so he was there
North
from
American those
North
days.
American it was then. And so he came up there, and he'd come back home once in a while.
Yes. And
But then we decided, later he asked me if I wanted to come to live in Grand Prairie. So I thought, well, that would be a nice place to live. So that's when we were engaged on Pearl Harbor Day. That's
December
when
the
it
7th.
happened. And so we came to Grand Prairie.
you married in Grand Prairie then?
We married in Killeen, but that was in 1942, March the 1st. And then we came to Grand Prairie and have been here ever since.
All right. That's wonderful. Now, Lee, when you came to North American Aviation all the way from Killeen, what did you do at the plant?
I was in inspection on electrical, on the subassembly and final assembly on the plant out there.
Where did you get your experience so that you could work in an aircraft plant since you'd been into radios and
Well,
things?
there were schools for that, but I didn't go to that. With my electrical knowledge of radio and working electric company and everything, well, they just called me right up and put me in it.
All right. Did you work the day shift or the night shift?
I worked the night shift. Usually, as you came to work, you would put on night shift because it's a little slower shift, you know, and gave you a little more time to get acquainted with the work. In the daytime, well, there's just people all over everywhere, you know, and there's a push to get planes out and everything. But I enjoyed that work.
All right. Now, when you moved to Grand Prairie, where did you live in Grand Prairie, Texas? Tell us about where you moved to.
We, when first married, we moved over in Dallas. I had an apartment over in Dallas,
All
over
right.
on Edgefield. And that was an easier thing for us to do at the time because I was working, you know, nearly all 6 days a week. So we moved over there, and then we came out here and bought a house from Mr. Singleton. And it wasn't finished at the time, but he said, Lisa, whenever you get ready, he said, I'll get your house ready as soon as you can, and you can move in. And I said, well, I want to make some arrangements here, pay you or something. I got to only get a house like that. And he said, well, I said, that's all right. Says, hey, even if you got the house built and ready, he said, you move in anytime you want to. And I said, we still haven't settled up or anything. And I said, let's do that. He said, no, you just take time. I'm busy. Just don't worry about it. And I guess we lived out there, how long? A month or so, didn't it? Wasn't it?
Before you closed your deal on your house?
Yeah. Well, he said, I don't want any money now. I said,
That's
wait.
when you bought a house with a handshake, wasn't
That's
it?
right, just about.
And in the middle of a cotton patch.
Yeah, well,
And tell us where it was located, Merle.
Southeast 12th Street, right down there and right west of the plant.
In Fairview?
513.
Or
No,
is it
it's in
on the south side?
South side.
Wonderful.
And we lived there until our boys were in high school. And then we bought a house where we live now.
All right. Now, Merle, when he was at North American Aviation doing all this electrical things, what were you doing?
Oh, I would sew at night, and I had a neighbor. We'd get together and we'd sew and we'd cook and we'd just do everything like that. And when he'd come in, one time we had some relatives come in at 2 o'clock in the morning, and Lee asked them what they wanted to eat. And my brother said, I'd like to have some chicken. So Lee went down to a chicken house and got some chickens off the roost, and we had chickens.
Neighbor down the street.
But the neighbor worked with him,
You worked with me.
so he didn't steal the chickens.
I didn't tell them about anything different. You know, I said, well, I had a neighbor down there that raised chickens, and I said, I knew where to go to get them.
All right. Now, Merle, we want you to tell us about your family that came along. Name your children, and while you're at it, you better name your grandchildren, too, because we'd be in bad trouble.
Oh, sure. Well, we have two sons. Ron lives in Longview. He is our eldest son, and he is an engineering manager of Axelson Oil Equipment Company there in Longview. And Tom lives in Arlington, and he is a professional pharmaceutical representative for Abbott Laboratories. And our grandchildren, now Tom is not married, but he lives in Arlington. But Ron has 3 children. He married Dianita Welch from Fort Worth. And they have 3 children. Our granddaughter's name, which is the oldest one, is 16, and she is Deidre. And the next one, we have 2 grandsons, and one 11, whose name is Dan, and then one 9, who is Ben. And they're wonderful children.
Oh, I know that they are, and you're proud of them.
We're proud of our grandchildren.
All right. Now, Lee, you worked with North American Aviation all during the war. After the war, what happened?
Well, I went, Roger Dickey came down, and he had a radio shop up here in town.
All right.
And he asked me to come up there and go to work, if I wanted to come go to work up there with him, a radio shop. I said, well, sure. So we made agreement there, and I worked up there, I guess, for a couple of years or so. And Bill came along, and we were real good friends.
And now you're mentioning Bill. We want the full name of Bill.
Bill Fitzgerald.
Bill Fitzgerald. Okay.
Edna Earl's husband.
Edna Earl's husband, okay.
Right. So we decided to go ahead and put in a shop of our own, radio shop. Back then, they didn't have television, just a short time before television. So we went down and talked to Mr. Turner at the bank. He said, well, just whatever you boys need. Says, just find you a place, you can buy it. He says, come by here and sign for it. And he said, we'll take care of the rest. I said, that sounds mighty good. So that's what we did. We bought a place over here on 7th, on Jefferson. And we bought a lot there and built a building on it.
And approximately what is the address on Jefferson where you used to be?
707 West Jefferson.
707 West Jefferson, okay.
Then after several years there, I guess we were there 8 or 10 years, we decided we needed more room because we didn't have room at the front, you know, to work on car radios and things like that. A lot of car radio repair then. So we went over here on Carrier and bought those lots over there and built, there was actually 3 buildings there on Carrier. And then we moved over there in the larger building in 19 and about 51.
And then did you expand your radio work? When did you do that?
Well, the radio work it wasn't long till television came in, you
All
know.
right.
And of course, that took care of the radio. Of course, still had radios to fix, but not like it was before, the radios only. But we moved over there, and it had a lot more room.
And now what was the name of your illustrious group? Many people, longtime Grand Prairians know, but we want videotape to note that, please.
Okay, it's Bill and Lee's TV service was what we named it.
Bill and Lee's TV service.
And we had several different men come and work with us over different periods of time, but
All right.
mainly Bill and I. And we had it, and when it first opened up, we had appliances also with it. But with all the work that we had, we saw we had extended a little bit too far for the amount of work that we could do. Had to hire a lot more people. When you do that, but then a lot of your efficiency is lost unless they're good men too, you know. But then after that, I had trouble with my shoulders. Lifting TV sets and televisions and different things like that, and I'd work all day and then have shoulder problems hurting me all night. I didn't like that, so I told Merle, I said, there's something I'm going to do. I'm going to make Bill an offer or let Bill buy me out, and I'm going to do something else the rest of my time. So at that time, I went and talked to Brother Marshall Waters on the TV, on the Turnpike,
Mm-hmm.
asking about the possibility of getting on the Turnpike. And of course, he was surprised because he wondered what I was wanting to do on the Turnpike. I told him, and he said, well, sure. I said, I'll see about it. And he said, it wasn't 2 weeks to 3 weeks till he said, well, you got a job out there if you want it now. I said, well, great.
So you made a big change from TV to Turnpike,
That's
right?
right, that's right.
Oh, that
All I
is
did
great.
Stand up there and hand out cards, and that's all.
And do all the good stuff. Merle, before we have about 3 minutes left on our show, we want to get into your role here in the community, and also you can pitch in a little bit about Lee's role in the community. And I know you go to church at a special place, and tell us what role y'all have played there and something else you'd like to give us.
Well, we go to the Turnpike Church of Christ, and we've been there all these years, and Lee served as an elder there for 18 years. Mm-hmm. And I've been teaching first grade for 29 years and thoroughly enjoy it. And Lee and the boys have helped me so much by creating my visual aids and such like, and I thoroughly enjoy it. But one thing I want to say about the TV, when TV first came, we would sit in the floor and watch TV, and there were no pictures. There was just a test pattern. But we enjoyed watching that. It was exciting because we could see what was coming in the future.
Yes.
And we were excited about that. But we've enjoyed living here in Grand Prairie and working with the people. And of course, we, like I said, we go to Turnpike Church of Christ. And
Where do you live now?
we live at 810 British Boulevard, and just north of the Turnpike.
All right, and the grandkids get to come to see you every now and
They surely
then.
do.
Yeah.
Well, Lee, I want to mention that you're a great historian for the church, and you've helped us in a tremendous way with that. And in the about 1 minute that we have left, is there anything you'd like to say about Grand Prairie, Texas, a good testimonial about Grand Prairie?
Well, I'd say that we've enjoyed every minute of it living here. Surely.
And you've been here
Enjoyed it.
since 1942.
42.
1942.
42. Mhm.
That's a bunch of good time. We
Yeah.
appreciate
I
you
just-
all as citizens, and
Well, thank you.
Well, we
enjoyed
had a
it.
hobby making copper bracelets, and I want to present you with one since you like jewelry so well.
oh, well, thank you. A
If that one
beautiful.
doesn't fit, well, we'll make you another one.
Oh, that
larger
is
one.
wonderful. Well, thank you all so much. Having something that you built personally, that's
Right.
a piece of memorabilia that I'll treasure for a long time, and thank you
Good.
all.
Yeah.
I want to thank you all for being on the show and adding to our history of Grand Prairie. We want to thank you for the good citizens that you've been for so long and a good influence in our
Well,
community.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do.